Withdrawal from NATO, member nations that had signed a significant security treaty that dating back to the Cold War have also withdrawn, casting further doubts on the future of arms control in Europe. Here's more on this in this detailed report. Take a look.
NATO member countries that signed a key Cold War-era security treaty froze their participation in the pact. This comes just hours after Russia pulled out, raising fresh questions about the future of arms control agreements in Europe.
Russia feels completely unbound now in terms of conventional forces, but they haven't been notifying under that treaty. They haven't been inspected for 16 years. So, as you said, it's a largely symbolic move at this point.
Many of the NATO's 31 allies are parties to the Treaty of Conventional Armed Forces in Europe, which was aimed at preventing Cold War rivals from massing forces at or near their mutual borders.
So we've been basically giving Russia absolutely free transparency with no reciprocation whatsoever. We've been restraining ourselves with absolutely no compliance by the Russians. And that doesn't really make any sense. And we're not really worried about Belarus invading Poland. So getting transparency from Belarus is nice to have, but it's not necessary. And so we've really been undermining our own position by just giving away this information with no expectation of Russian reciprocity for years and years.
The CFE was signed in November 1990 as the Soviet bloc was crumbling, but was not fully ratified until 2 years later. Earlier in the day, Moscow said it had finalized its withdrawal from the treaty. The long-expected move, which Kremlin blamed in part on NATO's continued expansion closer to Russia's borders, which came after lawmakers in Moscow approved a bill proposed by President Vladimir Putin denouncing the CFE. The treaty was one of a number of major arms control treaties involving Russia and the US that has been crippled in recent years. Last week, Putin signed a bill revoking Russia's ratification of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, a move that he said was needed to establish parity with the United States. Agency report, Republic TV.
And coming up in other news that we're tracking here in the world this morning, UN Secretary General has said that Gaza is fast becoming a graveyard for children, calls for immediate ceasefire. Also coming up, Pakistan has called for closure of all public and private schools in the country, in fact in Lahore, as well as offices, as pollution enters a severe category.